There was once a man named Gorka, though the world had long forgotten his name. He was not born as men are born, nor made as gods are made. He came from the silence before creation, from the breath between light and darkness. He was the first thirst, the beginning of hunger, the seed of immortality. Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Now let's dive into the story. Before the first sunrise there was blood. The world was young, silent, and endless. Mountains slept, oceans had no names, and the wind spoke only to the stars. In that silence, something stirred, a hunger older than life itself. The gods called it the first thirst. It was not evil, only empty. It sought warmth in the cold, strength in the void, and life in the silence. From that thirst, a figure rose, pale, tall, his eyes like dying moons. His name was Gorka, though no tongue had yet learned how to speak it. He was not born of flesh, nor made by God. He simply was. And when his eyes opened, the stars dimmed, for something eternal had awakened. He walked the earth alone, and the world changed with every step. Rivers turned dark when he drank, trees withered when he breathed. Yet even the earth seemed to bow before him. He was not cruel, only curious. When he first found blood, he did not drink it to kill, but to remember. This warmth, he whispered, is what the gods denied us. And so he fed, not for hunger, but to hold on to life itself. As centuries passed, others began to follow his shadow. Lost souls, cursed warriors, broken kings, all seeking eternity. From his touch, they were remade, bound by the first thirst. Thus began the first bloodline. And from it, the world's greatest curse and greatest love was born. 1,000 years passed, and Gorka ruled over the Nightlands, a vast empire hidden beneath the earth, lit only by rivers of crimson light. He was not a tyrant, yet his people feared him. He gave them life eternal, but not peace. "We live forever," he said, "but we do not change. That is the price of my gift." Yet deep within he began to feel the weight of what he had done. He watched his children's vampires grow cold, hollow, and cruel. They fed without need, killed without purpose, and loved without soul. "They have forgotten why I made them," he whispered to the dark. And so one night he vanished. The Nightlands fell into war, and the world above forgot his name. But legends whispered that the King of Blood had not died. He had only gone to sleep, waiting for the world to call him again. 100,000 years passed. Civilizations rose and fell, the sun grew weaker, and the oceans swallowed continents. Humanity forgot the gods, forgot the blood, forgot even fear. Yet in the ruins of an ancient city, beneath a cathedral made of bones, a pulse began to beat once more. The air trembled, the stones cracked, and a whisper older than time broke through the silence. "The king wakes." From the dust, Gorka opened his eyes. The world had changed: steel towers, glowing skies, machines that hummed like insects. He stood in a city of light, but all he saw was hunger. "They drink light now," he said softly, "but they are still thirsty." His reflection appeared in a glass wall, the same pale face, the same sorrowful eyes. "Then so be it," he murmured. "If the world remembers thirst, then I shall remember blood." As night fell, he stepped into the streets, unseen but not unnoticed. He could smell their hearts, their heat, their fear buried beneath comfort. For the first time in millennia he smiled. "The age of light has forgotten its shadow," he whispered. "Let it remember." The wind carried his voice through the alleys like a ghost's prayer. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed the first cry of the new age. The eternal king had returned, and with him the last chapter of the vampire race had. The world Gorka once knew was long gone. The empires he built had turned to dust, and the skies that once burned with stars now flickered with artificial suns. He wandered through a city of cold light and quiet machines, unseen among the living. They rushed by him, humans wrapped in glowing clothes, their eyes lost in glass screens. To them he was only a shadow, a trick of the night. But to Gorka, Every heartbeat around him was a song he once knew. A song that had grown weaker, duller, and afraid. He learned quickly. He watched their machines speak, their towers breathe, and their lights erase the darkness he had once ruled. But in that false light, he saw something familiar, the same emptiness that once filled him. Humanity has replaced blood with circuits, warmth with illusion. They are not free, he whispered. They are only blind. He walked among them, feeling their pulse beneath the earth. The blood still sang, though faintly. It was enough. He found an old cathedral buried beneath the ruins of the city, its stone walls cracked but still standing. There, beneath the altar, he placed his hand upon the ground and spoke the ancient words, "Rise, my blood." The air turned cold. The lights above flickered. From the earth came the first whispers, not voices but memories. The vampires of old, his children, had not vanished completely. They had survived, hiding deep beneath the world in shadows even light could not reach. One by one they began to wake. In the silence, Gorka felt their call, faint, broken, desperate. Some had forgotten him. Some had turned into beasts. But all still carried his curse in their veins. He knew then that his bloodline was not gone, only lost. He walked into the streets once more, where the neon glow met the darkness. He saw them as the new kind. Humans who had modified their flesh, their teeth sharpened, their eyes glowing red. They fed on synthetic blood, calling themselves nocturnes. They worshipped an ancient legend, the first vampire, without knowing his name. Children of imitation, Gorka murmured, watching them from the shadows. You wear the mask of gods, but you know nothing of eternity. Yet, one among them caught his eye, a young woman with silver veins beneath her skin, who did not fear the dark. Her name was Lyra. Lyra led a group that hunted the corrupted nocturnes, those who killed for pleasure, not survival. She believed in balance, that darkness could protect, not consume. Gorka followed her, unseen, for nights on end. He saw in her the faint echo of what he had once dreamed, immortality without cruelty. One night, she felt his presence and turned, her weapon drawn, a blade made of condensed light. "Who's there?" she demanded. Her voice was steady, her eyes sharp. Gorka stepped forward, the light reflecting off his pale skin. "You carry my shadow," he said softly. "And you don't even know it." Lyra frowned, her hand trembling. "Who are you?" "I am the reason your blood burns," he answered. In that moment she saw him not as a man but as something eternal. She lowered her blade, her heart pounding like a drum. "You're not real," she whispered. "You're just a myth." Gorka smiled faintly. "Then why do you tremble?" He moved closer, his eyes glowing with a quiet sorrow. "I made your kind not from flesh but from hope. You are what remains of my dream." Lyra didn't understand. She only knew that something inside her, something buried deep, began to awaken. That night the city trembled. The ancient vampires beneath the earth stirred, sensing their king's return. The nocturnes felt their blood burn with old power. The streets filled with whispers and the sky turned crimson. In every corner of the world, creatures of the night lifted their heads and knew. The eternal king had risen again. Gorka stood on the roof of the cathedral, looking over the city that shimmered like fireflies trapped in glass. The city burned in silence. Not from fire but from fear. The crimson light in the sky pulsed like a living heart, and across the world, every shadow seemed to whisper a single name, Gorka. But beneath that name, something older stirred. The one who had made Gorka from the first thirst. The one whose blood was the beginning of all curses. The god of blood had awakened. Gorka stood upon the cathedral roof as the air around him thickened with the weight of eternity. The voice came not from the heavens, but from the earth itself, deep, ancient, and full of sorrow. "You should have slept," it said. "You were my greatest creation and my greatest mistake." Gorka closed his eyes. "You gave me life without meaning," he replied. "Now I will give meaning to my death." The ground split open, and from the crimson depths rose a figure unlike any mortal form, vast, winged, and shimmering with veins of liquid darkness. The god of blood had taken shape once more. "Do you still think of yourself as a king?" the god's voice thundered, echoing through the streets like a storm. Gorka's gaze did not waver. "I am not a king," he said softly. "I am a father. And I will not let my children rot in the shadows you cursed them with." The god laughed at the sound that cracked the glass towers around them. "Your children are monsters, Gorka. They devour what they love. They destroy what they touch. Just like you." Gorka's fists clenched, his pale skin glowing faintly with red light. "No," he whispered. "They are what you made them. I only gave them the will to choose." From the alleys below, Lyra watched in awe. The sky tore open and red lightning danced between the clouds. She saw the monstrous figure hovering above Gorka, wings like torn night, and her breath caught. "What are you?" she whispered to herself. Gorka heard her even through the thunder. He turned his head slightly, and for a moment, his voice softened. "Run, child," he said. "This is not your war." But Lyra shook her head. "You woke me," she said. "Now I'll fight beside you." The god roared, his shadow spreading across the city. "Then she will die as they all did." The god's power surged, cracking the streets, shattering windows, shaking the foundations of the earth. Gorka leapt into the air, meeting the god's strike with his own. Their clash lit the sky, red against white, ancient blood against artificial light. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. Every creature, mortal or immortal, felt it in their bones. The war that had once ended worlds was born again. Gorka bled, his dark blood falling like rain. Wherever it touched the ground, the old vampires stirred, breaking free from their tombs beneath the city. The god laughed as the ground filled with screams. "See, Gorka? You bring death wherever you rise." Gorka fell to his knees, blood streaming from his mouth. "Maybe," he gasped. "But death remembers love, even when gods forget." The god hesitated, his form flickering like smoke. "You think love will save you?" Gorka stood, his eyes burning brighter than ever. "No. But it will end you." With a final roar, Gorka struck a blow not of strength, but of will. He drove his hand into the god's chest, pulling from it a heart made not of flesh, but of memory, the first drop of blood that ever existed. The god screamed, his body unraveling into dust and light. "You cannot kill what you are," he thundered. Gorka's voice broke. "Then I will carry you within me forever." The heart dissolved in his hands, merging into his veins. His body convulsed, his skin darkening, his eyes burning like dying stars. He had done it. He had absorbed the god's essence. He was now both the curse and the cure, both the father and the end. When the dust settled, the city was silent. Gorka fell to the ground, his wings broken, his strength fading. Lyra ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "You saved us," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "No, child. I only delayed the end." She held his hand as the light returned to the sky. "What will happen now?" The sun rose weakly over the shattered skyline, its light dim and uncertain, as if even the heavens mourned what had been lost. Smoke drifted across the ruins of the city, curling through the broken towers where glass still bled red from the night's battle. The streets were silent, save for the faint hum of the machines that refused to die. And there, among the rubble of what once was holy, Lyra knelt beside Gorka's body. He looked peaceful now. His eyes were closed, his face pale as moonlight. But his chest still glowed faintly, as if the god he had consumed still burned within him. Lyra touched his hand, cold but not lifeless. "You can't be gone," she whispered. "You said the world still needs its shadow." The wind stirred at her words, carrying the faint scent of rain and blood. For a moment she thought she heard his voice, "You are my shadow now." Lyra rose slowly, her heart heavy yet alive with something new purpose. She walked through the ruins, where the vampires, the nocturnes, and even the humans began to emerge from hiding. Some trembled at the light, Others cried in silence. The war had ended, but none knew what victory meant. "Gorka's gone," one whispered. "No," Lyra said, her voice firm. "He's within us. All of us." Her eyes glowed faintly red, not from curse, but from inheritance. The last spark of Gorka's blood had chosen her. Days passed and the city began to heal. Lyra gathered the survivors, vampires who had not fallen to madness, humans who still believed in balance. Together, they rebuilt the cathedral and named it the Sanctuary of Blood and Light. There, she taught what Gorka had died for, that darkness was not evil and light was not pure. Both were part of the same breath. "He was never trying to rule us," she said to her followers. "He was trying to free us from fear." And slowly hope began to bloom again. But peace never lasts in a world born of blood. One night, beneath the sanctuary's great spire, a scream echoed from the lower halls. Lyra rushed down with her blade of light in hand, the one Gorka had blessed. There, in the shadows, she saw something impossible. A man stood before her, his eyes burning gold, his veins black like living roots. "You shouldn't exist," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I was born from what your king could not destroy." His name was Varos, and he was the last fragment of the god of blood, the shadow that even Gorka's sacrifice could not erase. Varos bowed mockingly. "Your father killed a god," he said. "But gods do not die, they divide." Lyra's grip tightened on her blade. "Then I'll finish what he started." But Varos only laughed, his voice echoing like thunder through the hall. "You carry his blood, little one. Every time you strike, you feed me." He lunged impossibly fast and the walls split with his power. Lyra blocked the blow, light clashing with shadow, sparks raining like stars. "You can't win," Varos hissed. "You are still mortal." She pushed him back, her eyes blazing. "Then I'll fight like one." The battle raged through the sanctuary, destroying everything Gorka had built. Varos was not just strong, he was eternal. Every wound Lyra inflicted healed instantly. "You see," he whispered, "I am the other half of your king. His love made you weak, my hate will make me infinite." As he struck her down, the blade of light shattered, and Lyra fell to her knees, blood dripping from her lips. "You talk too much," she muttered, pressing her hand to her chest. From her heart came a faint red glow, Gorka's last gift. "Blood is not only hunger," she said. "It's a memory." Her veins burned with crimson fire as Gorka's voice echoed within her. "Now you understand." Lyra screamed, the sound piercing the night as her body ignited with both light and darkness. Her hair turned white, her eyes pure scarlet. Varos stepped back, suddenly unsure. "What are you?" he hissed. The world was quiet again. The war of gods and blood had ended, leaving only scars and silence. The sun, pale and trembling, rose over a new world, one built from ashes, one unsure if it should begin again. The ruins of the sanctuary glowed faintly beneath that first dawn, and at its center lay Lyra, the last of Gorka's blood. She stirred slowly, her body weak, her veins dimly pulsing with fading light. The battle was over, but her heart still burned, not from pain, but from memory. She stood, the wind brushing through her white hair, her eyes half open to the morning glow. Around her, the city was still, the vampires gone, the nocturnes silent, and the humans hiding in fear of what they had witnessed. For the first time in history, there were no masters, no gods, no immortals. Just her and the choice she had been left with. In her chest, she felt it, the last fragment of Gorka's power, the god's blood and the king's love intertwined within her soul. It whispered softly, almost like a heartbeat. "The world is yours to shape." Lyra wandered through the ruins, hearing echoes of the past. Every stone whispered Gorka's name. Every shadow carried his memory. "You died to end us," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "But what if ending us means ending what made us human?" She looked at her reflection in a pool of blood-stained rain. Her eyes, once human, now endless. "I can live forever," she said. But at what cost? The answer came not from the air, but from within a voice she knew too well. The cost of eternity, Gorka's voice said softly, is forgetting why you lived. Tears filled her eyes. She fell to her knees beside his resting place, pressing her hand to the cracked stone that marked where he fell. Then what should I do? She whispered. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of ash and roses, his favorite flower from the old world. Live, the voice said, and die when it is time. Let the blood sleep so the world may dream again. Lyra smiled faintly, her tears glowing red as they fell. You always knew how to say goodbye, she murmured. The sky began to change. The first rays of light broke through the clouds, painting the world in crimson gold. Lyra stood and raised her hands, summoning the last of Gorka's power. The red veins across her skin began to fade as she spoke the final words of the old tongue, the language of creation. Blood to sleep, soul to rest, light to rise. The ground trembled softly, and for the first time in 100,000 years, the curse lifted. Across the world, the vampires felt it, those who had hidden, those who had survived. Their thirst vanished. Their immortality dissolved into dust. And they wept not from loss but from peace. Lyra's own body began to change. Her heart slowed. Her eyes dimmed. She smiled through the pain. So this is what it means to be human, she whispered. Her reflection in the blood vanished, replaced by the faint outline of Gorka's face, proud, sad, eternal. You did well, he said. She reached out a trembling hand, her voice barely a breath. Will I see you again? He smiled faintly. You already are. As the last of her strength left her, Lyra looked toward the horizon. The sky burned red not with blood, but with dawn. The new sun rose, washing away the darkness that had ruled for millennia. Her body dissolved into light, scattering like ashes across the morning air. And for the first time since time began, the world belonged to no god, no monster, only to itself. Years passed. The ruins of the city became a monument. People came from every corner of the earth to see where the Blood King had fallen and where the last of his line had brought peace. They called the dawn that followed the red morning, and it became the first day of a new age, the age of renewal. No one remembered Gorka's face, but all remembered his legacy. The man who ended eternity so life could begin again. Far beyond time, in a realm where neither gods nor men could reach, two souls stood side by side beneath